Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new around here, my name's Harmon. Today's video takes place in Everett, Washington, and we are at the Lowell Riverfront Park, and this is the scene where 19-year-old Manny Big Beaver was killed by 3 people. Again, we're gonna give you some good shots. It's just a beautiful park with the water and everything else, but unfortunately it's the scene of a very tragic event. But anyway, we're gonna get into all the details, and later in the video I'm gonna show you guys Manny's grave, and then we'll go from there. So the date was March 22nd, 1994. 4 friends were hanging out together. The 3 suspects were 21-year-old Ayanatana Vaivai Moli, 19-year-old Russell Dorsey, and Timothy Jackson, and they were hanging out with their friend Manny Big Beaver. And on that day, on March 22nd, they were all hanging out together at a party, and for whatever reason, I guess Manny Beaver irritated his 3 friends. It doesn't really say in the article what he did or what he said, but he, I guess, irritated them to the point where they basically took him down to Lowell Riverfront Park here in Everett, Washington, and they ended up murdering him here in the park. The manner of Manny's death is just absolutely heartbreaking. So again, Manny's 3 friends took him here to the park, and they ended up basically stomping and kicking Manny's head just repeatedly over and over again. However, that didn't really do the job all the way, so they attempted to stab him with a bottle they found, and that didn't work. Then they ended up getting one of their belts and strangling him to death. Absolutely just horrendous way of dying for Manny there. Thankfully, all 3 of the suspects were found guilty and convicted of Manny's murder. They all got varying lengths in prison. Vaivai Moli and Dorsey both received sentences of about 20 to 26 years, and they were convicted of first-degree murder. And then the other suspect, Timothy Jackson, received a sentence of 10 to 13 years because he was convicted of second-degree murder. Manny Big Beaver was Native American, and he was part of one of the local Native American tribes here in the Everett, Washington area. Manny actually had an older sister, and him and his older sister lived with their mother in Seattle, and then they actually ended up moving from Seattle to Everett here as they were trying to get away from the sketchy things that were starting to happen in Seattle, and so they moved here to Everett to kind of get away from that. And unfortunately, you know, Manny still was killed. So they kind of moved to avoid some sketchy things, and unfortunately it didn't really help. Manny's older sister actually ended up having a kid pretty much soon after Manny was killed, and so of course Manny's family were very, you know, filled with different emotions. So we drove about an hour north of Everett to a town called Cedar Woolley, and this is where Manny Big Beaver is buried. He's buried in this kind of Native American little cemetery. What's interesting is this cemetery has like hundreds of these little crosses throughout the entire cemetery, and there's only about maybe like 50 or so actual headstones, but then there's like a ton of these other crosses. And so we're trying to figure out, like, do all these crosses represent someone, and how come they don't actually have a headstone or at least a name on the cross? There's no names on any of the crosses.
Lens just right over the crosses here. Didn't even bother to remove, the crosses first, which I find that very odd that a tree would be trimmed or pruned like this without any regard to.
Of course, if you haven't checked out Gus's channel yet, go check it out. It's awesome. He does a lot of adventure fishing type videos, and you might enjoy it. So go check it out. Subscribe to him.